Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. Thank you guys for joining me once again on such short notice. So much going on. Obviously, Hurricane Dorian is one of the biggest things we need to talk about. It's great to see everybody here again. And I just wanted to start quick again with thanking all our new Patreons. We had 9 new Patreons since yesterday, so that was awesome. And as you guys know, everything with YouTube has been tenuous for a lot of the channels like this. So we're trying to develop other venues as well, just to keep things going. And so there's exclusive content that's going to be on the Patreon page. It'll be basically sneak peeks that will later on be published over on Vimeo. So we're utilizing that as well. And so there's a new one up today. As you guys could probably see the title, this is some interesting stuff. Kind of ties in with the previous 3 days posts that are over there as well. There's just a lot of stuff that we really can't talk about openly here, that we can talk about openly without fear of any sort of censorship there. So, a good thing. And I want to thank everybody again for their support, and also at Ko-Fi to keep the channel going, and also as you guys have been so wonderful with your super chats as well. So much going on. Let's take a look at what we got over here with Dorian. So as many as 13,000 houses severely damaged or destroyed in Bahamas. The Bahamas took a straight on hit. And do you remember how Hurricane Florence was basically coasting along at 1 mile per hour, 2 miles per hour? Dorian's doing the same thing to the Bahamas. And there was video out of this gentleman that was videotaping from his second floor, showing the first floor, and the water was like 20 to 25 feet over sea level. Not a good situation at all. This storm is obviously a super interesting one to follow. And everybody on the channel, as we have been doing, we've been sending our prayers and best wishes, and also trying to keep the storm from impacting the mainland. And of course, all these people in the Bahamas, we're sending our prayers to them. There was reports an 8-year-old boy has been killed after Dorian made landfall on Great Abaco Island on Sunday. And so it's pounding the northern Bahamas. And Florida is getting ready because it's so close, yet it's creeping. Just creeping, and it's almost at a standstill, but still heading westward. But still, the experts are saying it's going to turn northwest and then just north. So we shall see. And as it says here, to brace for Dorian, Florida prisons in the storm's possible path boarded up windows and stockpiled supplies. At Tomoka Correctional Institution, which shuttered windows to prepare for the building for hurricane winds, inmates complained of excessive heat, according to family members. One woman said her husband compared it to a 400-degree oven. Holes were drilled in the boards to facilitate ventilation, according to multiple family members of the inmates. This gets me thinking about what Florida Marquis was talking about with when things happen, and people will have to either be left in the prisons to die or released when you have these major events. If many of you guys follow Florida Marquis as well. And so that is something that we just don't think about. So if we're taking a look at the official track right now, basically it's supposed to skirt the coast is what they are thinking. Just turn northward, skirt the coast, which, is better than a direct hit and going onto the land, sure. And again, we've talked about how flooded these areas already are and how saturated they already are. And if this thing is moving that slow, and it's going to be a prolonged inundation of the coastline all across the southeast, that won't be a good situation either. So, let's do our best and send our prayers and visualizations that this will go due north now and head out to sea. As we see, it's still a massive storm. And again, just fascinating how all these things develop. And, the other thing we'll touch on too, there are more storms possibly developing. As you see these computer models now, which are showing, well, a better path for Florida, potentially a little bit more troublesome for the Carolinas. So we'll have to see what's going on there. And everybody needs to prepare. It's something everybody needs to prepare. If you're along the southern Atlantic coastline there, do your best to get ready. Yeah, as Captain Nobury is talking about Walmarts, there's going to be runs on everything. And I remember the gas stations were out of gas back with Irma. And, there's so many people that got stranded. And actually, a friend of mine waited to the last minute to go and evacuate. And then she got stranded with no gas and was just, sitting there and was completely panicking, offering anybody like $500 to just come and bring her gas. So it's definitely, as always, it's always a better idea to prepare as advanced as you can and just stay in that ready state. And here we see out of NOAA, the track that they're expecting it to take. And we'll see if that develops. And out of Tropical Tidbits, the good thing is that the power has been dropping. And also the central pressure, it's up to 938 millibars, which, it's still a very strong storm. And let's hope it keeps weakening. We could also put that intention out there as well, that this will keep weakening. And so catastrophic damage in the Bahamas. There's multiple videos for you guys to look at here. Pretty much where it's been, it's almost complete devastation. As you can see here. Many of us have been to the Bahamas, and definitely friendly people, beautiful area, and many believe it might be part of Atlantis. And boy, that water's churning. As we see people trying to block and keep out the tidal surge, which was huge, absolutely huge. And of course, on the island, where are you going to go? If you can't get off by boat or plane, you just got to try to get to secure high ground. Looks like they're doing a good job there, taking those supplies right off the shelves. It never hurts to stock up ahead of time if we're able to. And this is out of CBS News, and again, there's more video in here. Category 4. And now the forecasters say it might spare the U.S. a direct hit, but it's going to be so close to the coastline. Mandatory evacuations underway in some parts of Florida, and order for later Monday for the coastlines of South Carolina and Georgia. And, definitely massive flooding, as we have said. Some of my favorite areas out there. And as we see here, out of the watchers, Bahamas takes a direct hit. Strongest in the history to hit the region. And as we were saying, there's things building behind Dorian as well. Interesting how they were just saying this is going to be a backloaded system, backloaded season. And then boom, we get hit with Dorian, and then there's other tropical waves that have the chance to develop as well. And here we see out Daily Mail. Hurricane Dorian causes extreme destruction, leaves bodies floating in the Bahamas. So far, they have 5 confirmed deaths. And of course, that number will probably rise because it's going to take a little bit to figure out what's going on, especially when you have the storm moving at just 1 mile per hour. It's pretty much stalled, just been sitting there. So they had high gusts of up to 225 miles per hour and up to 30 inches of rain. Incredible. And as we said, probably about 13,000 homes damaged or destroyed. All this will take a while to put together. The power of nature, it's such a beautiful thing to be able to live on a tropical island. It's so many people's fantasy, but yet there is the dangers. But there's dangers with anything that we do as well. Now, parts of coastal Georgia are already seeing high tide flooding. And so king tide is already bringing some flooding to the coastal areas, and the hurricane can only make that worse. And evacuations getting into high gear along the Georgia coast areas on Monday. Mandatory evacuations began at noon on Monday for everyone east of I-95. Officials said that all lanes of Interstate 16 will be turned into a one-way highway from the coast beginning Tuesday morning. By Wednesday morning, the major bridge into Brunswick, the Sydney Lanier Bridge, which carries US 17, will be closed also. Flooding and storm surge is always a big concern when a hurricane rolls in. And this was most definitely a special one. And you can see there's video here already showing a lot of flooding. And can you imagine if this thing stays slow? I don't expect it's going to stay at 1 mile an hour. It'll probably pick up speed when it does turn towards the north and then the northeast. But still, the amount of flooding that's going to hit the entire southeastern coast is going to be tremendous. And it's not just Georgia as well. We have king tide flooding in Garden City, South Carolina. And as it says, imagine when those floods, hit from Hurricane Dorian on top of what we got going already. It's going to be incredible. As you see this picture here from Garden City, and look at this, it's already all flooded. Can you imagine what this is going to look like? And we read that article where they're talking about the necessity of people retreating from the coasts. And of course, that makes a lot of people suspicious. And there's a lot of videos here for you guys to check out as well. You see the devastation, the damage going on. And as we were saying, after Dorian, are more hurricanes on the way. Forecasters are monitoring 4 other storm systems right now. So we're going to have to see what happens. It could end up being a very busy season after all. And this is kind of similar to what we had going last year. And so we have a meteor dropping fireball over Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And, a lot of security devices are catching some really cool things, and we have some photos to take a look at later as well. And so this one streaked through the night sky at about 4:28 UTC on September 1st. It lasted for about 5 seconds before it disintegrated. Possibility pieces of the object survived the entry as well. They don't know the size, but they had 105 reports from Alberta and Saskatchewan, Canada about it. And again, this is a security cam. I'll let you guys play the video. They caught it. We've caught so many of them on security cameras. And that mystery pool of boiling water inside the Hawaiian volcano crater could end up being over 200 feet deep. So we're going into a different period right now with Kilauea, because this is growing. And scientists do not know where the boiling water filling the Haleuamuma crater, and I probably tore that up pretty bad, is coming from. But they said it could relate to eruptions of 2018, where there were several collapses at the volcano. And so a green pool was first spotted into July by a helicopter, and it's continually growing. So we're going to have to watch that. It does seem like the earthquake patterns have changed somewhat over there as well. And you can't escape from these toxic algae blooms. They're all over. And so this is in Contra Costa County in California, uh, along the Sacramento San Joaquin River Delta. And a couple of dogs were killed going into the water from the toxic algae. This is like everywhere now. We've seen it in the southeast. We've seen it up in the Midwest. We've seen it in Canada. And now we've seen it over in California as well, along the Gulf Coast. Everywhere. It's very disconcerting. And yeah, these things do happen, but we don't always see it to this degree. And so many animals have died because of it. Probably a whole bunch of people have gotten very sick because of it as well. And we've talked about the starvation going on, the Great Famine going on over in Yemen. And now we have Zambia on the verge of starvation as the country struggles from its worst drought. Water everywhere, but not actually everywhere. We have all these flooding events going on across the globe, but then there are some areas that are getting dry, and it's just, this truly is climate change. And in most of our opinions, it's not really driven by CO2 emissions. We know there's a lot of methane that's been emitted from so many different melt-offs going on, and methane causes a lot more change to the atmosphere than we see from CO2. And you're seeing just growing areas are changing. And as we had talked before about, deserts turning green, and then some of the bread baskets, they're not going to be usable. So everything is totally changing. And we do see countries going to claim resources as much as possible as well, obviously. And here's Zambia, another poor nation, and this is in southern Africa. They're experiencing such a catastrophe in the making. And of course, it's the little children, it's the poor people, and you have over 1.7 million Zambians that are experiencing food insecurity, and the numbers are rising. And if nothing changes, they're just going to get worse. And here is another case of another river going almost dry. Now, we saw 2 lakes in Mexico totally dry up. And here we have the mighty Mekong River is almost dry in the middle of the rainy season. So this is the worst ecological disaster in the history of the Mekong region. A severe drought has caused water levels in Southeast Asia's Mekong River to drop to their lowest in more than 100 years, and it could have devastating consequences for fish as well as the tens of millions of people living and working along the river. As you see, that dried riverbed, very ominous looking. And so the changing patterns are hitting the entire globe. And we've talked about, crop losses and food prices and food shortages. So many rice farmers in the region, they've been unable to plant their main crop. And this is raising fears of a heavily diminished harvest this fall. And we have talked about also the Chinese government constantly reassuring their populace that there's plenty of food. But, is there? That's the question. And as we see over here, we have a polar chill that's going to grip Central and Western Europe this week. So get ready for autumn. As I hope you guys are having a happy Labor Day weekend. Britain's already feeling the chill as a polar maritime air mass originating from Iceland and Northwest Atlantic has arrived, bringing a noticeably cooler start to the week. Exposed parts of Scotland could see the mercury dip below freezing overnight Friday already, with a touch of frost likely as far down as northwest England already, guys. Rain and 50-mile-per-hour gales are expected to hold daytime temperatures well below average across the UK for the foreseeable future. So bundle up over there, my friends. Get the fires ready. This is going to be that time of year already. Tasmania's record cold August. Devonport equals lowest average minimum, monthly minimum. Mount Read experiences coldest month for 21 years as well. And we have a lot of weird anomalous things going on. We've been talking about this, We've been talking about plane crashes, we've been talking about boats exploding, we've been talking about gas line disruptions, just things exploding in general, and it just keeps continuing. We have 4 bodies recovered near Santa Cruz Island where a dive boat burned, at least 29 people still missing. So 4 people who were found off the Ventura County coast appear to have drowned. U.S. Coast Guard Lieutenant Commander Matthew Kroll told the AP 29 or 30 people remain missing, but those numbers could change due to some conflicting information. 6th crew member was on the manifest that was actually not on board the boat. So this vessel was a 75-foot dive boat named Conception. It became engulfed in flames by the time the Coast Guard received the call. We threw everything that we had available to get on the scene as soon as we could. 5 crew members were awake at the time of the fire and jumped overboard. They managed to make it to safety with some help from some good Samaritans who were aboard a pleasure craft. 2 of the survivors suffered leg injuries. And officials believe the passengers were asleep below deck. Authorities feared the missing individuals were dead. This is a big tragedy here. And we see 3 seriously burned in a Trenton pleasure boat explosion. We got to question what's up with all these things, because maybe I wasn't tracking them quite as I am now. But it just seems like there's so many questions. No word on the cause of the explosion here. 5 people were on the boat. There's been a lot of those, just too many, and you got to wonder about plasma, things like that. 30 injured as storm hits Essen during a rap concert. Crazy things here, and as we're going to see, there's even more than this one. A wall of LED screens fell from the stage at an open-air rap concert in Germany during a storm. Over 18,000 people attended. The rappers went on with their performances, but eventually stopped after continuous storms battered the area. It was a short but powerful storm. According to reports, 2 people are suffering from life-threatening injuries, while around 150 had to undergo treatment due to shock. And there's video here as well. I just don't remember there being things like this in the past, and there's just too many of them. Here you have a singer killed as she's hit by a pyrotechnic device in front of horrified fans. And there's a video there too. And so she was hit in the stomach. A pyrotechnic cartridge exploded into her stomach, leaving her fatally injured, as about 1,000 spectators watched the performance. And the curtain was quickly lowered, and this was her. Just tragedy after tragedy with these quote-unquote accidents. We even had the Pope stuck in an elevator for 25 minutes. And so he was freed by the fire brigade. Stuck in an elevator, the Pope. We have 3 injured after small plane crashes near Branson Airport. And we have an anomalous gel-like substance they found on the moon. And this, they're trying to dismiss this as being perhaps glass from meteors hitting it. But what is it really? And then there are those that will say, we're not even up there filming this. And I've been really following a lot of stuff in regards to, what really goes on up there. The moon's been fascinating for so many people for so long. And the thoughts are that, perhaps it's hollow, because supposedly it rang like a bell when the lunar lander landed on it. Perhaps it's nothing but a mothership. In the Law of One, it actually says it was made on Saturn and brought here and put in place by the negative ETs that have been here the whole time. The Orion group is how they refer to them, which are basically the Dracos and the Zeta Reticulans. And so it's all very interesting, and there's so many legends from different native tribes all around the globe that the moon, there was a time when the moon wasn't there, and that it was brought there. And so back to the plane crashes. We have a pilot and a passenger sustaining minor injuries after plane crashes into an Oakland County yard. And almost every single one of these, they say it's still under investigation. New Zealand couple among the dead in a Philippine light plane crash there as well. Norway helicopter crash kills all 6 on board. An investigation has been launched into that as well. And we have a man uninjured in a rural St. Louis County plane crash. Small plane makes an emergency landing in Wickham Lake in Warwick. And this is over in New York towards Westchester County. 4 Batavia retirement home residents hospitalized with Legionnaires. And if you guys, for those of you that are Patreons and those of you that will go check it out or become Patreons, there's a lot of things that tie together with all this. And today's video is another video over there that touches on these subjects, because there's so much going on that we are very suspicious of that may be contributing to what we're seeing going on with not only Legionnaires, but West Nile, EEE, measles, mumps, rubella, polio. All these things are coming out of the woodwork here. And you see yellow fever, mosquito discovered in Placer County. This is in California. So this is for the first time ever. They've found yellow fever in a mosquito in this area. So yet another thing to add to the mix. Polio outbreak reported in Ghana. CDC travel alert issued for Ghana. And you see this little sign up here, vax before travel. Yes, sure. Okay, a lot of us have our opinions on that as well. So skinny genes coming soon. Scientists use CRISPR, and CRISPR is that technology that they've been using to do all sorts of amazing things with. And many think tinkering with things that should be left up to God, prime creator, nature. And where is this going to lead? And then, of course, we've talked about all the rumors of all the things that go on, in the underground bases like at Dulce, where there's supposed to be massive experiments going on with all sorts of hybrids. And then we get to the thinking that the entire planet might actually be one large experiment when we really look at it and look at the history. So this is all about reducing fat storage in mice, which we could do the same thing. The scientists believe they could do the same thing with humans. And so, genetically engineer kids that are going to be lean, mean fighting machines. This is so Orwellian and also Frankensteinish at the same time, what we're seeing going on. And so this is really, to me, very sad. And this is the Biomedical Primate Research Center in the Netherlands. And so it's promoted as a flagship facility. For the animals, the suffering is the same. And heartbreaking footage came out of a terrified baby monkey shaking with fear after being snatched from his mum for lab testing. Animal rights activists have urged the UK government to take action after long-tailed mac was ripped from its parents' arms. And of course they have emotions. Animals have emotions. We know our dogs do, and our cats. There's consciousness in them. And this is really, some will say it has to be done in the name of science, and then yet there are so many that think it's just nothing but torture and brutality. And just another thing kind of gone wrong in our society. And another thing I was watching lately, how many of you guys have heard of, is it Missing 411? Missing 411. Very interesting stuff. Really interesting stuff, guys. Do you know how many people go missing in like national forests, national parks every year? It's a huge number. A huge number of people go missing. Some scary stuff. You got to wonder what's happening to them. there's so many times where they're gone, and they could track their footprints, and then boom, there's no footprints anymore. Where did they go? What happened to them? And no bodies found, no signs of struggle. They just disappear. There's thousands of people that have gone, tens of thousands, that have gone missing in this way when you look at it. And it's interesting because it comes in clusters. It comes in clusters in different areas. And you know where the number one area is in the United States? Yosemite National Park. Very interesting, you know? What's happening to these people? Are they being used for experiments like these monkeys? That's one thought that goes through my head, and automatically I think of, like, again, going back to Dulce and those huge underground research facilities and all the hybrids that are supposedly being created down there. And then if you ever listen to, Corey Good or Emery Smith, any of those guys that have been on the Gaia programs, and others as well, John Lear and I forget some of the other names, they've all talked about this big slave trade that goes on where people actually get taken off planet and sent to other planets, and basically a slave system. And when we look back to the ancient times, and if we look back all the way back to the Sumerian gods, if they really were quote unquote ETs or interdimensionals, apparently they seemed very, very physical, and they were able to have kids mating with humans, and we think about it, slavery was a thing that was accepted in those days all across the board. As I've pointed out before, there's so many instances of slavery in the Bible, and it being looked at like it was okay, perfectly fine. So you got to wonder, is that what's going on with some of these situations? And then, of course, when we talk about Epstein and that whole thing, then it leads you down that road, which is obviously something that really happens as well. So most definitely take some precautions when you're out there in the national parks and national forests. Definitely go out and be in nature. And I personally love it. Love getting out there in the middle of nowhere. It's just beautiful and blissful. But it's just another one of those questions. And when I see the eyes of like that monkey right there, and then hear some of these stories, you just wonder if there's humans behind bars like that, looking out like that as well. And we have a very rare two-headed baby turtle found on South Carolina beach. And this was over on Hilton Head Island, which I had the pleasure of living there for a year and a half. It was a beautiful place and very peaceful. So there's a loggerhead turtle, a two-headed one. Pretty cool. Extremely rare. And so 21 calcium deficiency symptoms that will surprise you. And many people are calcium deficient, don't have a clue. And calcium, obviously, it's the most abundant mineral in the human body. It's best known for its important role in bone health, protection from osteoporosis, does a lot of other things as well. Imparting strength in bones and teeth, it plays a critical role as a messenger in cell signaling pathways throughout the body, necessary for normal cell function, transmission of nerve signals, secretion of hormones, blood coagulation, muscle contraction, muscle relaxation as well. So there's a lot of signs of calcium deficiency. And so, unfortunately, most people don't really actually get their USRDA. And then a lot of times the USRDAs are thought to be not really optimal as well. So we're not really optimizing our health. Numerous factors have been found to impair calcium absorption and or lower calcium levels in the blood. So those factors include a vitamin D deficiency. And so especially in these times, if it's obvious in a lot of areas, we have a lot more cloud nucleation, a lot more clouds, a lot less sunshine. That's going to contribute to the issue there. Magnesium deficiency, high sodium intake, high phosphorus intake, things like Coke, food additives and soft drinks. And again, we should avoid the processed foods as much as possible. Chronic kidney disease, abnormal parathyroid function, bariatric surgery like a gastric bypass, and numerous drugs, obviously, and chemotherapy, things like that. So some symptoms if you are calcium deficient: fainting, heart failure, that's a serious one, chest pain, numbness and tingling sensations around the mouth or in the fingers or toes, muscle cramps, wheezing, difficulty swallowing, voice changes due to spasm of the larynx, irritability, impaired intellectual capacity, depression, anxiety, and personality changes, fatigue, seizures, coarse hair, brittle nails, psoriasis, dry skin, chronic itching, teeth decay, numbness or tingling in the extremities, muscle weakness, cataracts, and of course osteoporosis symptoms as well. And so, that would be a good thing to supplement. And just change your diet, because eating a lot of leafy green vegetables could most definitely up the intake there. And here are 8 yoga asanas for neck pain. More than neck pain, though. These are good asanas for your whole spine for the most part. And this is the easy seated pose in which to start. Neck circles, that's one of the things I'll do every day as a warm-up. Cat-cow pose, as you see illustrated here. We got to always keep our spine moving. And a lot of people don't recognize the importance of basically elongating the spine. And you could do it through yoga asanas. If you have an inversion table, that is such a good tool if you have any sort of back problems, because it will decompress your spine. Getting upside down is actually a good thing. Of course, if you have a lot of different issues like blood sugar and other things, you want to go slowly with that as well. Cobra pose, many are familiar with the cobra. The Sphinx pose. The rabbit pose, and I'll have the links for you guys here. Standing forward bend, child's pose. And you got to just breathe, and breathe into areas where you feel tension. It's amazing because it will relieve the tension. So I didn't get permission to play this video, but I wanted to just show you guys. And if this isn't CGI, then I have no clue what it is. But basically, it's just this area that develops that's dark, and then it just shoots off. It's just so bizarre. So I'll give you the link so you guys could check that out as well. And your guess is probably better than mine with that, if it is not a CGI issue. Here, this is yet another security cam catching something. Now, is this CGI or is this legit? Again, you guys tell me. It's just kind of bouncing along. Is this part of the veil going down and we're seeing entities clearer, and the camera is seeing entities as well, perhaps? Now this orb, and it's a large orb, has been seen inside the house as well. So what do you guys make of that? Is this some sort of person? And so let's see what we got here. Now we go over here. Phyllis sent this in, and it's kind of a rod-like thing with some orbs attached, and it does move. She sent like 3 other photos that were the same pretty much, but you see it in just slightly different positions as it kind of moves farther and farther down. So what do you guys think this is as well? Again, is it some sort of being? Naughty Beaver caught that one. I think it was somewhere over in Germany or Sweden. It was interesting, but it reminds me of that. Some sort of dimensional being. Very curious. Just wonder what would happen if we change the light on it a little bit. Is it one entity or is it multiple entities? It's curious. Now this one, is this an orb? I'm not really sure what they wanted us to see. I see a purplish energy over here, or that could be just be paint, but this looks like it's kind of glowing in a purplish or magenta. And then there's this fuzzy down here. So not sure exactly what we're supposed to look at. And that almost looks to me like it could even be just like a dandelion, the white part that goes flying away. And then this one, what do you guys see in this? Do you see anything? There's kind of like little orbs in the background. This almost to me looks like somebody hunched over. And yet I could see a face right there pretty clearly. Another merging of the dimensions, blending of the dimensions. Or is it just a camera glitch or foggy lens? And do you guys see a triangle in there? And this was Angie in Idaho. It kind of looks like one of the ships from Star Wars in there. Although I could almost see it as like a standing figure as well. And then a lot of people have been talking about mud fossil. And I remember there was one video that came up showing that one part of North Africa along the western coastline was thought that it could actually be some sort of living fossil, and it would be huge. It would be like 500 miles long. Hard to conceive of something like that. Yet this is the same thought right here as we look at the western U.S., obviously Baja California there. So do you see the potential in this for this being some sort of living creature, like a T-Rex, for instance? So as you see the tail, the body, the head, mouth, claws, legs. Can you guys see that? I could kind of almost make it out, but I guess I really don't see it totally. But what do you guys see? Anybody see that? And then this one I didn't catch at first. And Bill sent this one in. So at first I thought we're just looking at lens flares. But when we look close, there is almost something that almost looks kind of classic saucerish right here. So is it a drone? It doesn't look like a plane. That looks pretty classic saucer to me. Yeah, I could see that. That is definitely curious, very curious. And so we got this that came in, and it was for Evolutionary Energy Arts Alternative Medicine Practitioner, Best of 2019, Sarasota, Florida. And it was for when previous to when we left and moved on up to North Carolina. So just wanted to thank the Sarasota Chamber of Commerce for that. That was beautiful and really appreciated it. It was a wonderful thing to see. And I wanted to thank them for that. So guys, there's a lot happening out there. And yeah, the main thing is let's keep those prayers and good intentions going, because you know what, the storm has slowed down to a stop pretty much. It is getting weaker. So let's see it, just continue to dissipate, to weaken, and then let's nudge it out. Let's nudge it right back to the northeast now and send it out there. Because, we have power in our intention, most dimensionally. I was reading Chris P's comment there about 11 dimensions in our brain. And that's true. Scientists do admit it. We're multi-dimensional beings. It's just a fact. There's so many things that were thought to be, crazy and out there, and they're just fact now. And it's just like I was talking about in the video I did today that's up on Patreon. And you could become a Patreon for as little as a $1 donation towards the channel. And many people are doing a $5 one. I haven't put any tiers up. But I was talking about the fact that, back in the 80s and 90s, we were thought crazy if we thought we were thought to be crazy if we thought that there was such a thing as geoengineering. And yet, yeah, there is. It's just right out there now. And a lot of us didn't like to use microwaves. We're worried about the effects of them. And so that has been basically verified as well, as far as the potential hazards. The hazards in like standard sunscreens. A lot of us felt like the sunscreens were more of a problem than the sun. And how about, the nonstick cookware, that now has been found to be a problem. A lot of the different types of nonstick. And it just goes on, and again and again and again, people that are thought to be CTs, C-O-N word, and theorists that come after that, truthers, you can't even really say that word anymore because it'll red flag your video. Yet all these things have come out to be dead on. Yeah, Jeremy says microwaves are outlawed in some countries. You got to be a little bit suspicious of things. You have to be a little bit suspicious. And thank you, Mercy. You have to be suspicious. It's just the nature of things. And when you see like the things that I was talking about in today's video over there on Patreon, which is obviously very, very controversial, because I know it'd be just red flagged here, right away. We're talking about patents for things that potentially can be used as weapons and potentially might be already being used on you and me when it comes down to it. It's very true, very scary, and it's very obvious what's going on at the highest levels. So many of these puzzle pieces are just falling straight into place. And, as Heather Dawn says, mad scientists, they are. There's a lot of mad scientists out there. Most definitely. So we need to keep, educating each other on these things. So many of us have changed the way we eat. We stopped eating processed foods because we recognize, the yellow dye is not good for you. Carrageenan is not good for you. There's so many different things, and all these, fine print in the product information that are not good for us. And we now know that, what we are hoping to be organic food isn't really organic. And, is anything organic anymore? Unfortunately, that's, one of the big questions out there. And with the laws that keep getting changed, and they're not getting changed in our favor for the most part, it's making it easier and easier on the corporations to make more and more money, but it's also leaving more toxins in our bodies, ultimately. So we need to be always detoxing, as we've talked about. It just has to be something we do every day, basically, and as a regular, practice. And those of you that remember Netzaya, who is a regular calling in, and he has his own thing going now a lot as well. But he's a big one for coffee enemas, so he does coffee enemas every single day. And eat as much whole food as we can. And as Thomas says, nothing is organic anymore because of what's happening in the skies above us. It just comes down, permeates the land, goes into our water table, and unfortunately we breathe a lot of it. I did share with you guys that I was doing bentonite clay and diatomaceous earth, and it really, really works. It does work. It pulls a lot of toxins out of your body. I found it to be pretty beneficial, and there's so many other things you could do as well. Boswellia, which is Indian frankincense, is very anti-inflammatory. We've talked about that as well. And it also will help with lung symptoms, as we know, again, because of the situation in the skies. Boswellia is something I am taking every day. And Jeremy talks about the fluoride in our water. Yeah, well, that's why the Nazis used fluoride in the water to keep people sedated. And you know what? There's frequencies that do that same thing. Frequencies that are out there that will make us sedated as well. So we have to recognize all the things that are going on. Yeah, there's so many things we can do. It's high blood pressure, for instance, runs in my family. And so, my sister is big for the pharmaceuticals. So she's been on blood pressure medicine since her early 30s. And mine was running high before. It hasn't run high because I'll just simply take arginine, which is an amino acid, and it drops at about 10 points, and my blood pressure is fine. And the other thing with arginine, it doesn't have all those bad side effects. It actually helps when you work out, gives you more energy and more endurance as well. So there's a lot of so many natural alternatives, which, unfortunately for the big pharma, it doesn't help their profits, but it helps our health without any of the side effects. And sorry to hear about your ear, Barbara. Barbara's going through a lot of things, and the thought is it is directly connected to what we are talking about right now. Hello, Kenny. I hope everybody's having a wonderful day as well. Yeah, beet juice. There's so many natural ways we could better ourselves without increasing the poisons that are in our system. So, yeah, we always must look to those natural alternatives. So, guys, as we have been doing, let's keep that intention going. Let's push this storm to the northeast, and let's keep it off the coastline, send it back out into the water, break it down, see it dissipate. And let's again send our prayers and our love and best wishes for everybody that's already been suffering through this in the Bahamas. And as always, I want to thank you guys for your support on Patreon and Ko-Fi, and also with being part of this family and being a subscriber, clicking the bell, get all notifications as always, and share. As they try to clamp down and stop us from spreading the word, we're just going to find any other way we could keep spreading the word. Much love to you guys as always. I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. God bless and namaste.